Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Mary Abijay, and I would like to welcome you to the Friday 15. This is our weekly live broadcast on LinkedIn where we go, live for 15 fast, furious, hopefully fruitful minutes in order to talk about career and workplace success. Today's topic is in honor of the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle. And so the topic today is how to quit your job, or rather, how to quit your job with a little bit of dignity, a little bit of grace, a little bit of class, and a whole lot of professionalism. As we're seeing during this great resignation or the great reshuffle, we're seeing a lot of people reevaluate their workplace situations, reevaluate their careers, and reevaluate their jobs. And this is great news. We should always be reevaluating what we're doing, why we're doing it, and for whom we are doing it. And so part of this means many of us are going to quit our jobs. We're going to leave our jobs. And there's lots of really great, fine reasons to leave your job. You might have a terrible boss. You might work for a toxic workplace, which, by the way, is a great reason to leave your job. Or maybe there's a lack of developmental opportunity or a lack of growth in your current job. Or maybe you want to make more money. Or maybe some other great opportunity just fell into your lap and you want to take it. Or maybe you're just dang old bored with your current job. Whatever the reason is, one of the most important things you want to do when you leave your job is to leave it as professionally as possible. So on today's show, I'm just going to give you 12 tips, 12 reminders, 12 things that I want you to think about when it's time for you to say sayonara, babies, and you're going to move on. And the one thing I don't want you to do, by the way, is say, take this job and shove it. So these are things you're going to do instead of saying that. All right. So I've got 12 tips for you, and I'm going to show them on the screen. So the first tip is, I'm sure everybody knows, is this, is you have to be careful not to burn any bridges. The work world is actually smaller than you think. Like, you never know when you're going to run into a former boss, a former coworker, or when those former relationships are going to matter. So as you're leaving, I want one of your number one considerations to be not to burn bridges. You want to keep those intact. And that means leaving professionally, with class, with dignity, and a whole lot of grace. All right, we got a comment here. Let me see who it is. Oh, hey, Kristen, happy Friday to you too. All right, that's number one. Your whole goal is don't burn bridges. Number two, I highly recommend, when possible, that you line up your next move. Yes, there might be times where you're going to quit without another job, but you do want to think about finding something first before you take the leap. And this is for a couple of reasons. One is, we know whether it's right or wrong, the employers tend to have a little bias. They tend to be a little suspicious of those who leave the workplace. Plus, if they steal you from somebody else, that makes them feel good. So see if you can't make sure that you line up your next move before you say goodbye to your current job. Always a smart thing to do fiscally, and actually sometimes professionally as well. My third tip is this: give your boss proper notice. Give your organization proper notice. I know this seems like a no-brainer, but it bears repeating. Like, as you are leaving, you want to make sure you leave on the best possible terms, even if you hate the people with whom you are working, because you never know when those relationships are going to come back to play. Now, 2 weeks is the industry standard for most white collar organizations, right? So you can give a little bit more if you want. I wouldn't recommend giving too much more, because then you kind of might get a little retired in place, or you might fall asleep on the job. So give 2, maybe 3 weeks. Try not to give less than that time, because the reason you are giving time, you are giving a notice, is that you are actually preparing them for your exit, and you're preparing yourself for the exit. So give proper notice. You definitely want to write a resignation letter, but you also want to talk to your boss in person. So I recommend a short, very succinct letter, staying as positive as possible. This is not the time to throw punches. This is not the time to, tears and recrimination. Keep it succinct. keep it positive. You want to say, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's time for me to move on. But I also want you to tell your boss in person, whether or not you have a good relationship or a bad relationship, that person has been your boss. So take a moment to sit down with them and let them know that you are leaving. Again, if it was a good boss, you want to let them know how much you enjoyed working for them, what they meant to you, what you learned from them. Be kind and compassionate. If you hated your boss, keep it short and sweet. My friend Chris DeSantis recommends that you tell your boss you're leaving on a Friday, especially true if your boss really likes you, because this gives them the weekend to work through their emotions. And let's be really clear, if your boss likes you and you're a good worker, they are going to be sad to see you go. So giving them time to like mourn is a really great idea. So give them proper notice, tell them in person, and be as succinct as possible and positive. The next thing you want to do, you actually probably want to do this before you give your notice, is you want to have a transition timeline. Yeah, Carrie Hatch says yes in person. Yeah, because Carrie and I love our employees. So tell me in person, tell me face to face. I will be sad, but I will be happy for you as well. You definitely want a transition timeline. You should have this all thought through before you give your boss your notice. Your transition timeline really is going to spell out what's on your plate, what projects you're going to work on, what projects you're going to finish, and what projects you aren't. I want to caution you, don't bite off more than you can chew, but make sure that you actually accomplish what you say you're going to accomplish. This is going to help your boss have a little bit more, whew, okay, we can live through your departure. But really get granular and let them know where things are, what you're going to do, what you're not going to do before you leave, and then do what you say you're going to do. The next thing I want you to think about is, how can you set up your successor for success? I know you've done a timeline, but can you do a little bit more? Can you write a memo to the person who will be taking over for you? Can you say, here's where these files are. Here's some info on this project. Here's kind of a roadmap for this job. I mean, imagine if you walked into a job and someone had a game plan, a playbook made for you. Wouldn't you love that person even though you never met them? It's a really kind way to pay it forward and really boost your professional brand and reputation. So set them up for success. And you know what? Try not to leave like nasty little notes like "get out now" if it was a bad job, or "beware of this." Don't make it nasty. Make it positive and help them succeed in your role. Now, you also want to be prepared to leave before your time. Not every boss is going to take your leaving, or every organization is going to take your leaving in good stride. Some people might be like, oh, well, fine, get out now. So you want to make sure you're ready to leave before your 2 weeks notice. Just make sure you've got all your Rolodex. I know most of you don't know what a Rolodex is, but make sure you have all your belongings. Make sure you are ready to walk out that door. Have a baker's box with you in case they say get out. That's and hopefully that doesn't happen, but I have known that to happen for people. Which also means make sure you know what they owe you. This might mean unused vacation time. This might mean your 401k, any pension. Make sure that you are clear about what they owe you and what you can and can't take with you. A quick trip to HR after you give your notice is really helpful, and I highly recommend it. You also want to know what you owe them. So you want to be really clear that you have, like, if you have like a laptop you have to return, or your phone, or anything that belongs to the company, you want to make sure that you are returning it and that you're getting a receipt for returning it. You never want to be accused of stealing something after you left, especially if you didn't even know you were supposed to return it. So know what they owe you and know what you owe them. Now, the exit interview. Yes, of course, you should do the exit interview. Even though it's too late to keep you, do the exit interview. Be honest but tactful. If you had a difficult boss, it's okay to say, like, we didn't always see eye to eye, but try not to badmouth that person in the exit interview. Oftentimes, exit interviews go in a file, and people may look at it later. Your boss may even see it. So, if you really want to make sure you're not burning bridges, you want to be tactful, but you want to be honest in an exit interview. But I highly recommend that you do one, just so the company can get some data on why people are leaving, and maybe eventually they can do something with all that data. So, do the exit interview. Say goodbye. And I mean this literally. Say goodbye to the people that you've worked with. Say goodbye to your clients, your customers. Send people emails, let them know where you're going. Take the opportunity perhaps to go and meet with some of your colleagues, have lunch with your coworkers. If they want to do a going away party for you, go ahead and take that. Really closing out those relationships is really important. And I shouldn't say closing them out because you want to keep them with you, but making sure you take the time to really honor and show appreciation for the people that you've worked with is really important. No one likes it when a colleague they've enjoyed working with just disappears like a ghost in the night. So leave with a little bit of class. Say goodbye to people. Don't just what is it when the Irish that leave the Irish leaving when you leave a party and you don't say goodbye? Don't do that. Say goodbye to people before you leave that party. Take your contacts with you. And what I mean by this is make sure before you leave, you have people's emails. You have them either on your phone or you've downloaded them. Your colleagues, your network in your organization can stay with you forever. So you want to make sure that you take these contacts with you, that you can reach out to these people. Maybe you'll just do it through LinkedIn, but make sure you have some sort of a database or a list or contacts of these people. And when you leave, sometimes you may not want to tell people where you're going yet until you get there. But after you get to your new job, make sure then you email people that you worked with, your contacts with your new contact information. It's always a nice thing to do. We always wonder, like, what happened? Like, what happened to Carrie? What happened to Hyder? Like, what happened to them? So make sure you stay in touch after you leave. My last tip is this one. And this is a big duh for many people, but you want to resist the urge to badmouth either your boss or your current organization. Now, I know you know this when you are interviewing. You don't want to badmouth your current boss. You don't want to badmouth your current organization. Even if the interviewer really wants to know the dirt, you cannot say anything because they don't know you. If they hear you bad mouthing your current colleagues or your current boss, they're just going to think, I wonder what you're going to say about me when you leave my employ, because they don't know how fabulous you are. All they can see in that interview is that you are a malcontent in some ways. So we know this, right? But I also want to caution you not to badmouth your former job or your former organization for at least 6 months, if at all, in your new job. Because remember, people still don't know you. They haven't built trust with you. So you want to make sure that you've really built solid relationships, solid trust with your current boss and your current organization. You want to make sure you've shown your value and your fabulousness before you say anything bad about your current about your former boss. I had an employee once that had a terrible former boss, but he didn't say a word to me about it until about, I don't know, 8 months after he started working for me. And I was shocked because he was fabulous. But had he told me that in his first week or first month, I would have been like, I wonder really who is the horror show, you or them. So wait, do not badmouth even after you get a new job. So those are my 12 tips to quit your job gracefully. But I have one more tip. And this last tip is this. If you've had a really great boss, like a Carrie Hatch or a Robin Goodstein, then why don't you, after you go to your new job or even before you leave, why don't you take that boss out to lunch? Take that boss out to dinner. Tell that boss how great they were. Tell them how much you learned from them. Write them a letter. Write them a note. Bosses are human too. And so if you had a really great boss, then go ahead and tell them that. They want to know that. It's a very classy and dignified thing to do. Christian Shattuck says, it's important to remember that everybody doesn't share the same view I do with regard to what makes a job or a person difficult. So it can really sour current and potential relationships and your reputation. Kristen, you are so right. That is a brilliant, perfect comment. Like, so you want to be really careful when you are bad mouthing other people if they don't know you. So this is the Friday 15. I encourage everybody during this time of the great reshuffle or the great resignation to take stock of what you want more of or less of in your job. Take stock of what you want more or less of in your career. You know, you manage your career. Your career is up to you. So put yourself in the driver's seat. And when you put yourself in the driver's seat, when you take an exit ramp, make sure you do so with a little class, a little dignity, a little grace, and a whole lot of professionalism. Well, that is our Friday 15 for today. I want to encourage you to join me next week. We are going to have Chris DeSantis back, and we're going to do a special live episode of our popular Cubicle Confidential podcast. So bring your questions, bring your thoughts, just bring yourselves. And until then, have a great work week. Be good, be kind, be classy, and be professional.